this, we use this.
All right, everybody. We are about to begin this month's meeting of the Robotic Society of Southern California. My name is Ben Partida, current president, and I'm here with all of our administration and our longtime members. We have a great meeting today. We have the first robotics competition in years that we've had. Should be exciting. And of course, one of our great lecturers, Jim, your lecture is on what today?
Well, since I did a lot of work on the line.
Line source.
Connect the dots. So it's going to be about about Dead Reckoning on this little robot.
Okay.
For drawing accurately as I could.
All right, so let's get started.
Right.
Is this online yet?
That is
Oh, Cooper, you mean?
Yeah, Cooper is going to be here, but I'm going to, well, he's not going to have, I'm not going to try to engage him. No. It's yet another whole level of effort to make a human like properly interact with a group of people. That's like maybe a research.
That's already pretty cool.
A research topic, but at least in this case, maybe we can just talk to him. We only can, like, he has to be the center spotlight, I guess, is what it comes down to. Try doing that later.
Maybe we should have a talk to Cooper section of the meeting.
Yeah,
where Cooper is the center. I mean, he is our first and only metahuman AI member.
Yeah, and like he's been upgraded to ChatGPT 3.5, so everything that's recorded goes into a chat log. So with user coming from us and assistant coming from him. So I was, at some point I wanted to have him listen to the whole conversation of our meeting, or part of it anyway, and then we could ask him, oh, what did you like about it, or or summarize it for us. Anyway, but
Oh, that'd be sort of cool.
this is at least I got some achievements and got him animating, writing. It's supposed to be blinking, but all right, well, so yeah, and I want to actually.
Hey Jim, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
Was that your guy you were showing just a second ago? Because I just got here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's that's Cooper. He's now he's an official member. So.
Good.
Pay the $10.
You gonna bring him tomorrow?
Not a voting member. I can. Yeah, it's just a laptop. He lives on the laptop. But,
for those who don't know it, we're having a barbecue over here for the Riverside Club, and everyone's invited.
Thomas, I checked the weather, and it's gonna be rainy and 60 degrees.
I know it's gonna be an inside barbecue. I'm gonna put the barbecue under the back porch.
I know I might not make it.
You might not make it. All right. Well, we're gonna have it rain or shine.
Okay.
It usually rains a whole lot less here at where I live. Sometimes the storms don't even hit us. But yeah, there is a possibility of rain.
I like indoor barbecues.
I guess there won't be too much swimming if it's raining.
Probably not.
Better than when it's too hot.
all right. Well, so this what I worked on for the last month or so. Basically, I had not started on the connect the dots until after the last meeting. And I'll, in my camera, second camera here,
Oh, did you want me to spotlight your bot or you?
can I just switch that? Which video is the primary? No, yeah. You can take it off me because I'm boring.
Right now,
So yeah, this is the robot I made. No, sorry.
Oh, did you? Okay, hold on, let me catch up again. Sorry. There a third camera?
No, just this camera that you had. That's the camera right there, upper left. It's Cooper's camera, but so this is the robot I've been using. So I dug out my old Lego Mindstorms NXT kit, and it was the in collect the cans configuration, and so I thought this is the fastest way I can really do this challenge, because I already have code for the Dead Reckoning, which allows, using odometry. These kits were relatively sophisticated for the time, because it has odometry encoders in its motors, and the software available from Robot C, or the Robot C development environment, allows you to use the PID loops and everything for keeping the wheels synchronized, so you can drive straight lines without having to code all that from scratch. So that was the starting place. So I reconfigured the front end to give it a pen and put a third motor on to raise and lower the pen. And will it go back to my?
Want to switch back to? There you go.
Yeah. So just to cut to the good video first. I sent this out, but I'll play it here. We have to join.
Switch from Cooper's screen.
It's not playing. That's my PC.
Usually you have to stop the share and restart the video and audio.
Just did that.
Oh, I didn't
wait.
see the share stop though. Here, I'll stop. There you
What? Can't you just?
go. I don't know if you can enable it once you started sharing, so I just stopped your share. Go ahead and read.
Might be because of my redirected audio ports.
My entry for the Hi, I just wanted to give an update preview of my entry for the Connect the Dots contest. I'm using a very old Lego Mindstorm kit and adapted it to have a pen. So here it is.
So it's kind of a lot of work just for that.
All right.
Yeah, so it's, I kind of didn't do any more development, and I switched I did finish that about a week ago, and I was going to work on it more, but Cooper took my time. But yeah, so that's the ultimate result, and it's the, Dead Reckoning is not that easy to get working, but I kind of, well, there's a lot of factors that come into play with things needing to be tuned, and getting it to be accurate enough to, a robot like this wasn't really designed to draw, that accurately, unless you put a fair amount of effort in anyway. But the variance in the motors and all that can have an effect. But yeah, part of it, so I'll go to the, here's a quick little show of the, what it looks like, differential drive kinematics. And, you've got the two wheels, and you've got a wheelbase, and you've got the diameter of the wheels. And all this comes into play. And I'll show you some of the code too. But we go back to, this is this article from this guy, Nick Maqueen, who took a class that I ended up taking called Control of Mobile Robotics. That was on Coursera, I think it was, or yeah, it might have been. And so it explained the kind of fundamental concepts of getting a two-wheel robot with differential drive steering also with encoders that could record odometry to behave in a way that is controllable, so that you can have it go to a location, have it know where it is in the world, and all through just dead reckoning, which is no vision, no other sensors other than just your internal motor encoders. And that leads to it leads to some inaccuracies due to slippage of the wheels, the standard old things we've all encountered probably before. But then, the basic concept of having the robot give some readings, and then you try to interpret the readings, and then you send back a control signal. So in this case, a lot's going on because in the Lego, the Robot C already has a PID control for synchronized motors on the two wheels or the two axles. So you can tell it, give a certain percent of power to right wheel, and in sync mode, it will then apply the right amount of power to keep the other wheel running at the same number of clicks or distance. So it actually that makes it go much more straight and straighter than if you didn't do that. If you don't do that, a robot will just wander off. So that's what's really, that part of it, you have to implement that yourself or have a system that has it already in there, which luckily this Robot C did, and which really helped me. Let me see if there's some other picture I wanted to show from here. Yeah, so in this case, this is a robot. Later on here, they implement actually turning at using an algorithm to sort of turn towards the goal. So here's the robot, and here's the goal, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm turning in place. So rather than moving forward and turning by applying a omega, say a turning rate of turn while you're moving forward, that's a little bit more complicated. Whereas you just saw the video of my robot, it just goes to make things simple, it goes straight lines and then rotates on its own axis, and then goes towards a new goal. And that is, that's what I'm doing to make things simpler. Okay, switch. So this is a very old technology. You can see old papers about it, and it's pretty much all trigonometry, but this is the basic configuration. Ooh, I should get my notes here where I did the math, some of the math, but this is what my robot has: the drive wheels, the motors, the caster, only one caster, encoder wheels, and then this is the fundamental. I didn't have to do these graphs myself or the math. I did study the math to learn it, because it really is, and then derive it as well. It's kind of I don't know, it's good to rekindle your mathematics skills after a lengthy drought of not using them. And it takes a little bit of effort, but we don't. Most of us, I'm not in graphics so much anymore. I don't use a lot of this on a daily basis, or the physics or anything. But this is basically your. I'm trying to get it to move over here, center it. This is your situation here, kind of top view of initial and final state. So robot's starting here, and it's going to end up over here. And so you've got an angle, and this theta is the heading. As it turns around, as it goes forward while turning, it has, and this is the case where you're not just turning on a dime, you're turning while moving forward. But you have this a virtual turning radius, which is this point here, and so you have a certain heading that you were going to begin with, and then you have a new heading at the end, and then you have these arcs here of various lengths from the right and left wheel, and it's all about figuring out, calculating that as you go. And it turns out that a lot of this paper is about error, dealing with error, and it is a big deal, but I'm not kind of addressing that so much. But essentially, this is the main equation here, this is implement. Yeah, it's not as hard as it looks, really, but essentially that angle of theta, the first theta and the second. You notice there's two thetas. There's a theta k minus 1 and a theta k. So those two angles come into play here, and essentially this equation lets you take the previous step, because it's all about, in control, it's all about this previous step plus the current step equals plus this interpretation equals the current step where you are, and then you send that back through. So this is a way of keeping track of where the robot is in space. And here's some more. There's a lot of different diagrams that will help understand the velocities of these V's represent the velocities of the wheel. Now, I mean, in my case, again, and I'm doing a simple case, I'm trying very hard using a control loop to keep the velocity right and left the same, or in other words, they adjust automatically to try to keep the robot straight. And here, this breaks down the rather simple, or rather in a little bit easier way, the equations for that. But let's see, there's another. that was, okay, you saw that one. Let's see if there's any other. You do end up with error. A lot of error occurs, and that's why you see all these dots all over the place. It's because every time you run it, it's going to be a slightly, there's going to be error from friction and from inaccuracies in the motors and the mechanics, and even the back wheel, the caster wheel, depending on where it is, it can cause the robot to lurch a little bit. And you can see I have one on mine that causes it to, if it's turning a certain way, the caster wheel will cause it to kind of lurch a little bit, and you lose some accuracy. So I had to put a kind of a fudge factor in for certain turns to like say, well, I know it's going to miss that, so I'm putting in on a certain turn, depending on where the back wheel is. It's predictable though. So here's another. So coordinate systems is kind of another topic I'll briefly talk on a little bit. And in my case, you have a pen out in front of a robot, and the center of the wheels is back a little bit. So it's kind of like having an arm. So there's a little bit of there's a little bit of kinematics there, because when I tell the robot to go somewhere where it's going, it's using its center of its wheelbase to go, not the pen. So to deal with the pen, you have a situation like this, where the robot's origin is like this axis, this point, say, with these directions, and then the arm is like out here. In this case, I don't need all this fancy stuff, because the arm is simply on the center axis of the robot out in the direction it's pointing. So it's a much simplified case, and that makes it but this is a general case. You could use this type of system to handle arms of an arm of a robot like Grey, and you could use these transformations to map from, say, a finger, a hand, to a elbow, to a shoulder, to the main body, using a series of transformations that then get it back to the root coordinate system. So here's the what we've all been looking at. What I did was I got this on graph paper and well, first of all, what I did is decided this is going to be 0, 0, and then this is going to be the x-axis going to 2. So it's actually tilted, but this is just going to be 93 millimeters, 0 in the y, and then this other one is mostly y, and like 60 something in the x and 130 in y or whatever. So the robot starts here, and he's just going straight along his own x-axis, and then he does some turning and backing up and that sort of thing, and then heads to this other point. So those are just with coordinates. Here's some more, another look at it. The state is x, y, and theta. So where the robot is, I call it a pose, or generally it's called a pose in the code. So the pose is on a graph paper, x, y. X is essentially in front of the robot. So from the robot's point of view, again, there's two what we call frames of reference. There's the global frame of reference, which is what you see in that on paper. If you're looking from above, you're seeing the global frame of reference. But the robot is got a first-person view of it. Okay, so the robot is like in front of him. To you, like when you're looking at the paper, you're you know, you're seeing, oh, it's over and up to the right. That's a global, you're looking at from a global reference point where those 3 coordinates I just gave you, that's the sort of global coordinates. To the robot, he's got his first person coordinates. So essentially it's like, okay, the point is in front of me, that's his X, let's call it. So in that case, the global and for the first point to the second point, the global and the robot is pretty much the same, except the pen is out in front by 107 millimeters. So really the robot's at negative, actually the robot's at negative 107 millimeters in the X, it's this point right here is where the robot actual location is this XY between the 2 wheels, and the pen is out here. So for the pen to be at 0, 0, the robot is actually at a negative 107 millimeters, whatever. Okay. So, what was I? If there's any questions, please, definitely please interrupt me. But yeah, so you have a global sense of X, Y, and theta, theta being the, in this case, say in the global sense, theta is the heading, like compass degree, like north by northwest, whatever, north, south, whatever. And so that's kind of when you'll have like 2 different, so you need to figure out the angle to turn to go to a new point. That's also that's part of some vector math, you know, determine, okay, I'm at this point, I need to go to that point. You do some vector math and you can figure out, oh, the angle between that is this. But then you have to put it in the robot's point of view, because when you look at it on paper, they'll say, oh, the angle is 90 or 107 degrees or whatever to make that turn. But in the robot's point of view, he's on the he has to determine whether to go left or right, and that degrees is going to be the same, but you have to calculate that. You can do it too. You can do it in the frame of reference of the robot, or you can do it in the global on paper. And here, show you. You switch to the cam, or actually, I can just do this.
Yeah, we need,
That's okay. This is probably
here.
yeah. So this is a simple diagram of, say, the robot's here, right, and he's pointing in that theta there away from the x-axis is this one at the bottom here. So you can see this robot's pointing kind of up to the right, upwards and right, and then the goal is where this Q thing is up here. Here's the goal. So you need, and the pen is out at, so the robot's at 5.4, the pen's at 6.5. It's a pi over 4 or 45 degrees. And so then how do you figure out this angle to turn right there? Call that alpha. Is that what I called it? And so and then here's the different things. Q is the destination, P is the robot position, theta is the heading. I would say TA, that's the turn angle. Distance to go is D, and then the pen location. So really, it's not, so with some vectors, and you can see I've got those vectors, QP, vector, and then that's just taking the points and subtracting. You take the Q point and you subtract the P point, and you get a vector for QP, meaning from P to Q. And then that next thing is the length of the QP vector, which is 5. This is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, so it makes it nice. And then the pen is at 1, 0 out in front of the robot. That's in robot coordinates now. So pen is 1, 0, whereas in world coordinates, it's at 6, 5, you can see. So that's what I'm talking about. Global coordinates are up here. In this case, this is the robot's point of view. He's like, the pen is out in front of me at 1, 0. In front of me is X. I'm looking down the X. The robot is looking down the X or horizontal axis. So then you can, from trigonometry, you can use the dot product and use it to figure out the angle, which is a cosine by taking the inverse cosine. And it's fairly simple, so that I'm subtracting. It's simple as far, this is high school math. I mean, it's a little hard for some of us, that haven't used it in a while, but you take this cosine thing becomes the whole angle, and you subtract the angle you're already at. In other words, this is the full angle to the x-axis. So that's this whole thing, the whole angle from x all the way to the goal. And then you subtract the theta that you're at, and that gives you the leftover that you need to turn. And then the distance is, so there it is, 143 minus 45, so it's a 98-degree turn. Is what the robot needs to do. And then this distance here is the vector of that QP minus the pen vector, because the pen is out in front. That's what's nice about this case. I don't have to do some weird inverse kinematics for an arm or anything. It's simply wherever the robot is, the pen is just in front of it, and it's out in front. So all you have to do doesn't affect the angles or anything, just affects the distance that the robot would need to go, so that the pen is on the dot, not the robot. Otherwise, you've drawn too far. Okay, so let me show, we've seen some diagrams. Robot C. So this is what I've been using. It's pretty old, but it works quite reasonably for this type of application. So here's some pen up and pen down. It just manipulating the motor for the pen. Again, it's using motor encoder motor ticks. So since it's got encoder, I can count the ticks, and the ticks are one tick per degree. So 45 ticks is 45 degrees, and you can run the motor at different speeds. And through this, this is using that PID loop that's built into this sort of firmware, which is nice. So you don't have to. You can adjust that. Like if you really want, you can go into the low level and mess with the PID. But for this NXT, they figured out some values, and it works reasonably well because they tested it. I mean, this was designed for the NXT motors and everything for this. So here's the way I set up where the robot should go. The first point is where the robot is on. Like put the robot down on 0, 0, actually the 10. And then the next point is, as I was telling you, 93 straight, on the x-axis, 0, y. And then the third point is 67. And then I had to do this left bias. I started to tell you about that. That's because of that caster wheel. When it turns, it kind of throws it off a little, and then 127 in the y. So, but I could put new coordinates in here, and and probably just move the bias or whatever, and I could do any coordinates. Or like I was gonna do the course in reverse. I didn't have time, but next time maybe I can show you try to do that, to essentially do the reverse 3, 2, 1 of the dots. So Yeah, so the code that runs this is essentially telling the robot using high-level functions, go to destination. And let's see how this starts out. So I'm printing all the poses and everything. So go to destination, to the first point, or it's actually the second point. So you're on the first point, the pen is down, I'm going to the second point, and then I put the pen up, and then now here you could have more points if you, more than 3 if you wanted to, that's why it's a loop. So then it goes to the next point, and in this case I'm telling it the body. So I can say I want the pen or the body to go to that destination. And the only difference there is really the distance. It'll hold back by 107, the delta between the body or of the robot and the pen, where the pen is. So here I want to draw the pen all the way to this point. And the next, what I'm doing, as you saw, the robot goes up to the second point and centers itself there and rotates. So that's why I'm saying go to destination, body of the robot. So then the robot goes right on top of the second point. And then then it has to reorient itself. So now I'm turning towards the point. So I have a function turn towards destination. So it will now turn, well, it doesn't matter, it's a turn, so body doesn't matter, but this, it doesn't matter what this field is here in this case, because I'm just turning, not going forward. So this will compute that angle. I just showed you that math. It will compute the angle that the robot needs to turn, and then it will turn towards the next point. Then now, unfortunately, the pen is in the wrong position, so I have to back up. So I back up by exactly the robot's distance from the center of the pen's distance from the robot center, which is robot pen distance. And of course, this is all assuming that the drive straight the drive straight is using those PID loops. You're hoping it works reasonably well. But if it doesn't work too well, it doesn't work perfectly, I guess I forgot to mention here that I have during all this stuff, I have a localization task running. And that is using that math I showed you at the beginning where it was like position n-1 and position n equals position n-1 plus, well, that's where this localization task is doing is every 10th of a second or 20th of a second, it's calculating where it thinks the robot is based on its movement and based on the encoders. So the encoder, if the right wheel move and left wheel move a certain amount, it's calculating where the robot has moved to. And so then, even if you don't drive straight, as long as the encoders picked up that it didn't go straight, that is recorded into the position, so then it can correct itself. If the wheels actually slip, then that's kind of unknown unknowns. So that you have a known unknown, or you have a known deviation from the course if there's no slippage, and since I'm keeping track, this is the dead reckoning portion of it. So here then I say draw pen to the final point, and I say pen here instead of body, so that and in the meantime, of course, I'm doing pen down and what have you. So the real crux of the code here, control of that, the code I'm referring to is this localization code. Well, I guess let's start with localization. So So you have to update your odometry, what you're doing is I'm using odometry to keep track of where the robot is in the coordinate space. So every like I said, 20th of a second or so. Here, let's go down to the main routine. So this is that localized task. So this localized task, it updates. I try to write this code so that you can read it. Each function has got just high-level calls, so you can understand it by reading just a few lines. So here you can see it's running forever. It updates odometry with the current ticks, which is the current readings, the current pose, and it's going to fill up the new pose. So then this computes the new pose, and then I assign the current pose to the new pose, right? And that's it for this routine. That just keeps running. And that function that does that is the most complicated part of the program, really, is taking the difference in ticks since the last iteration every 20 times or 30 times a second. So this tells you how many degrees of that each wheel moved in that fraction of a second. And then here you can figure out, you estimate the wheel movements in actual millimeters. And based on the diameter of the wheel, you can figure out the millimeter, how it's a circle. A circle rotated 20 degrees. You know how the radius of the circle, so you can figure out how far that circle moved forward, right? If you unstretch the circle onto the ground, you broke, essentially took a circle like a rubber band and cut it, and then you put it on the ground, and now you know the distance. And so then if you're going, in this case, there's two cases. If you're going straight, it's going to be the left and right wheel should have moved almost the same. And then it's a fairly simple math. It's just a couple of trig functions, like and the angle from where you were, the previous angle. And so that just tells you where the new position is, and the angle stays the same. But if you're turning, then you have to compute using this equation. This is essentially an implementation of that bigger equation I showed you, and you can derive all that, and it takes an hour or two to refamiliarize yourself with trigonometry, but it's definitely provable, and based on that diagram I showed you. So that updates the encoders and the position, and then and so, well, the other factor is I use that information to in the navigation. So navigation, or I'm sorry, the movement commands. So when you're moving, driving robots straight is pretty straightforward. I use, like I said, the sync mode, and you just drive a certain number of ticks, which is, there's a direct relationship between ticks and meters, and so that's a drive straight, and there's the function drive straight in millimeters. Now, turn to destination is the more interesting stuff. The turn to destination, you have a destination in x, y, and then this function that will figure out the angle. So that's the sort of that more complicated stuff I was telling you about. It calculates a vector to the destination in what's called the robot's POV. Now, again, this this is a more general solution to have to do it in robots POV, whereas what I showed you on that paper, you can do it straight in world space. But this code I found, and or when I first did this, it does it in the robot's point of view, or it uses that calculation. So it calculates the angle to turn, and then the ticks to the destination. And if it's the pen, then it subtracts out that distance between the pen and the robot's named body. So that's the turn function, and that's how that. Anybody have any questions or want to cover anything?
I just have one comment. I was actually able to explain to middle school students doing Lego robotics how to turn on a constant radius, changing from one straight line path to another on a circular arc, and pointed out that the two wheels each follow a different circle.
Right.
So it's
Like this.
simple, very simple trigonometry to figure out how fast each wheel should be going. But like you, had to ignore errors. Just hope it worked.
Yeah, now that's covered in, well, in some of these papers I'm showing you where
Yeah,
this
but these-
wheel is moving at a slower rate than this one.
Yeah, but these papers would be intimidating for
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm
10-year-old.
not reading the whole.
10-year-olds.
Well, I'm just using this diagram, not.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So I saw you were using semaphores. Is there multi-threading in Lego Mindstorms C?
Yeah, well, it's not maybe true multi-threading, but it is there are multiple tasks. You can have multiple tasks running in Robot C. So, and I use this for the collective hands as well, where I didn't have to think too much. I like, well, I want to do these two things at the same time. I need to keep track of where I am. I need to scan. I need to move the robot back and forth while also pinging the ultrasonic and recovering data from that. And so you can do multiple threads in the form of these, what's called tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So you declare a task, like, I show you from the start here, and you say start task, start task. So you can write a function. You can write multiple threads, and I'm only using 2 threads in this one, the main thread and the localized thread. In the collective hands, I had those 2, plus I'd have threads that would turn on and off, for instance, while scanning, moving the robot back and forth while also pinging a separate task to ping and get back distance data, and then put it into an array. So it's it may not be true multitask. It's not parallelism, but it is cooperative.
Right.
It's interrupt based, I guess. It's what do they call it?
Concurrent sequential programming, I think, was the old term many years ago.
Concurrent sequential, or that's a mouthful, but I was just going to say, instead of cooperative multitasking, it's interrupt-based multitasking.
Okay, so you're using 2 threads. That's why the semaphores are this.
So the semaphores are to protect the pose variable, because it's being updated in one thread and used in another. And I didn't want to take any chances as far as whether it's real whether there will actually be a clobber occur in that variable or not. But certainly since it takes me multiple lines of code to fill in X, Y, theta, it could interrupt between those lines.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just changing one value, if you're like just assigning a byte, like in a single write function, I don't think it can interrupt between a single line of code, but in this system, but in any case, yeah, I did that for safety, because, you know, I've been burned many times by multi-threading, you know, errors where, yeah, you're getting a half written piece of information from one thread is writing and the other thread's reading, and it interrupts between the lines where it's writing those three different, you know, X, Y, and whatever, and theta. So,
There's no camera on your robot then?
no camera. No, this is it right here.
Yeah.
So all you got is, here, I can put it on the
Okay,
video.
switch here, that's okay. Here, I'll switch over.
Oh,
There you
yeah, all you've got is just the motor for the pen, the motors for the wheels, and then this back thing, which is a source of error. But these wheels are, you know, as symmetric as I could make it with this, so that they're equidistant from the center, and you know, everything is trying to be symmetric as possible. And then these wheels are pretty sticky; they sit on the ground, and you go very slow, and to reduce error. And then the robot. So as it's moving, if it's trying to go in a straight line, it's gonna do a little waverly like this, because the PID loop is correcting one wheel to the other. There's a master wheel and a slave wheel.
Yeah.
Essentially. That's kind of, I didn't have to program a lot of it. This is part of Robot C, is why I like it so much. Because some of these lower level things can be handled for you. And then same with turning. There's a turn sync as well. So there's a straight sync and a turn sync in Robot C. And there's some good stuff going on below there. Essentially, there's a PID loop, control loop, that you tell the right wheel, go 10% power, and it records how many ticks the right wheel is going, as every 20 times a second, and then it checks to see how far the other wheel went. And if the other wheel didn't go as far, it boosts the power a little bit, and vice versa. And that's automatic. That's below my, I don't need to worry about that unless there's some real problem. And so it will go in a straight line reasonably well. When you're turning, you can control it's called out of sync, or inverse synchronization, so that you can say when the right wheel moves forward, the left wheel moves backward. And that's how you turn in place. And so you can set that, and so that's also that's a turn sync mode. And so as it turns, it will also be doing that same calculation. It's calculating how far is the right wheel going, and with this, this power that the left wheel has been, you say you're giving a single power number, and you've slaved the right wheel to the left, and then so then you can calibrate, and you can get a 90-degree turn, or 100. I tested on 180 degrees. So I would so the calibration is an interesting part of this whole thing. So there's two calibrations you have to do: straight driving calibration and turn calibration. This is the simple approach. So straight is, I tell a robot, go 24 inches or whatever, and then I'm counting the ticks, or first, I compute how much is 24 inches in degrees of wheel turn, and then that's in the code. So then you do that test and you see how close it was to the 24 inches on the floor. And if it was a little too short, then it didn't go far enough, and it must think the wheels are a little too big. So you can adjust the wheel diameter a little bit, and like, because measuring with a ruler is only so accurate, trying to get the diameter of a wheel like this. When it comes down to it, and there's other factors at play with the going on with the mechanics. So the best thing is to actually run it, get the see where it lands, and then back learn that into the numbers. So then you adjust. So that's the first thing. Then you adjust and then rerun it until it lands as close as you can to the wheel. Well, this point right here. This is the center of the robot between the two wheels. So when that, if you tell it go 24 inches, and if it's a little too far, then it must think the wheels are too big. Then you have to, then you have to do the opposite. You have to increase. If it's going too far, then you have to increase that diameter number. So that then, and so you get that down. This is, we're talking about fractions of millimeters, when you're adjusting the spinal bit. So once that's good, then you can drive a certain distance. The next thing is angle. So I tell it rotating 180 degrees.
So my hearing aids just completely died. I got it
Oh.
home. It's not rechargeable on the new ones.
Oh.
Used to them, yep.
All right, let's, well, you're able to make it. Good seeing you. See you.
So the next thing, so when you're, so you tell it go 180 degrees, and the robot goes, and it goes a little less than 180. Well, now what you're doing is you're adjusting the wheel, the distance between the two wheels. That's what affects the turning radius as well. We all know this from our vehicle, from our cars. The wider those, well, and also it's also the way you're, how well or how far the wheels can actually turn on their axles. But the turning radius is mostly determined by the distance between the two wheels. So if you turn, you go tell it go 180 degrees, and it doesn't go quite far enough, then maybe it thinks that the distance is it's too big. You have to reduce this distance, and the vice versa, so that you narrow down. You're kind of calibrating the wheel base, and once you get that as accurate as possible, then the turns will be as close to the degrees you ask for. Again, we're relying on the PID loop in there that is already is at least giving you it's trying to keep the wheels turning the same distance, as each other, one in one direction, one in the other, obviously, so that it's rotating. But otherwise, there's multiple levels of error that can build up, right? And so with that synchronized turning control loop that's built in to the robot C firmware, that keeps things going as close as possible to the distance, to the number of ticks or angle that you're telling it to. Then, but the wheelbase number has to be, that is obviously, if that's wrong, it's going to go the wrong distance, because that's used in the calculation for the number of ticks to turn. So that's on you. You have to make sure that the wheelbase number is correct. So that's that calibration. Any questions? Anybody have anything you want to know more about? I guess with the code enough. But unfortunately, this is a lot of, it's primarily a code thing. It's dead reckoning. So dead reckoning, the concept is simply being able to use a direction and a pose and recording of your of some sensors without without vision and without pinging distance and all that. Dead reckoning is simply using your compass and how far your wheels have turned and being able to navigate. It's a much simpler way of navigating. And what's important about it, even though you think this is kind of a old technology, why don't just put a camera and GPS and all that stuff? But, or LiDAR, like on Big Orange. Big Orange is way beyond all this, but it probably does in the firmware use dead reckoning between points. At some point, you don't have any sensor data and you need to interpolate. So then dead reckoning is a good way to do that. You've got your odometry, and you've got you're keeping track of where you are. So with the localizing through the odometry. So then to get to that next little point, you still use, even in an advanced robot, you still may use dead reckoning to do it. That, like a little delta.
I approve that, because that would be a step up for the average 10-year-old in the first Lego league. They use trial and error for everything, and it takes forever. And they don't know what they've accomplished, actually. Eventually they'll get the robot to go where they want to go, but they don't have an idea of how they could just simply calculate and do something a little different. And this approach is still learning. It's simple enough that they wouldn't understand PID, but they can certainly understand setting a distance and figuring out from the radius of the wheel how many angles, how many degrees that motor has to turn. I mean, that's straightforward.
Even for 10-year-old. Yeah, 10-year-old is, this stuff here, if you go all the way down to the deep level, it's graduate school or, work. You go to the papers, but you can switch back to the, my screen, I guess. Some more pictures, that might be helpful. Yeah, I was going to get a little bit into kinematics. So we've already, actually, believe it or not, we've already been discussing forward kinematics for differential drive motors, or different drive robots. This is a more complicated version of that equation. But forward kinematics, here's the diagram, basically. This is that, the center of, what do they call it? The center of curvature is that what the ICC is. And ICC, instantaneous center of curvature. So as a robot turns, in general, this instantaneous center of curvature can change. But in my case, I'm just keeping it the same because I'm rotating around my axis. But this is some diagrams of how you do the kinematics. Like the robot's in world space here, and it's going to move around. It's going to rotate around, say, this center point. To convert it, to get it to kind of do the computation, you move it to the origin. It's exactly that thing. Just move to the origin, and then rotate by 90 degrees so that it's along the x. So that's sort of like I was talking about the frames of reference. They come in real handy when you've got more complicated things. And then here's the sort of, this is their view. This is their kind of way of doing it. So if you can ignore the equations for now, but just look at this rotation by this the delta in the rotational speed, and then translate to the origin, and then back to the original location. So now the robots, it shows where it went from the, if you drove it here and you're turning at that particular angular speed, then it's going to end up here, as it shows here, rotated around that point. And that's how you do it. You do this multi-step, translate to origin, and rotation and rotate, and then you get the new point. That's this new, they should have put prime there, but. And here it is this is just, telling you the value, that this is R, and then point at time t, and then it plus this delta. And you have to keep this delta very small, like 1/10 or 1/20th of a second is how the actual robot works. If there's any more interesting pictures here. This is just explaining what I was telling you before. And the wheel rotates a certain number of degrees, then it's going, r theta is the actual distance on the ground that it went. It's quite simple of a, that's your old, 2 pi r is the radius and is the circumference. And okay. And so what I was going to get at is in this whole thing can be applied to, or this type of inverse, actually it's not that, it's this other one, this one here. So in the case of my robot, I just have a pen sticking out in front. But in other robots, you might have more joints. And if you go down to the bottom here, they talk about so if you have a robot with more joints, then you can use the same transformations to handle each joint. I think I already kind of mentioned it before. Where, if you have an arm, then you just have more steps involved in transforming the frame of the, the end of the arm, like the hand to the wrist to the elbow, or if you just have, depending on how many degrees you have, there's a transformation from each joint. And so in this case, we're just mapping from one frame to another. For instance, where the robot is to where the pen is. That's just that's one transformation. And this is a general case. So it's in my case, the pen is simple. But if you have something like a hand out there, then the hand has an angle where it's facing, right, from at the wrist. So that's why you have 3 different angles. This is a joint, say. It's a joint, and at that joint, you can turn to face different angles, right? So in a robot arm, you need all those. You need all 3. So if the robot, or if the wrist is here, then and with this orientation, then say say the elbow is here, and then the wrist is this one. So the wrist can be in its own angles, right? So the elbow can be at certain angles and position, and the wrist can be a certain position and angle. And so that through these transformations, you can transform from one frame to the other. So, and that's what you need to do to get the global position. So you have to go back from the wrist position, back to the elbow, back to the shoulder, back to the root, eventually to the root of the pelvis, say, is the root of a humanoid, or whatever. If it's just an arm robot, then you're back to the bottom of an arm-based robot is like, say, the swivel. right? So then you go back to that, and just through just a series of these transformations, which handle the angles and the positions, then you can handle multiple joints. And this is just figuring out where they are, not the inverse kinematics. That's a whole other thing which I'd like to study myself. But the idea is that you can take a multi-jointed robot and figure out where that where that end joint is in world space by running it through these equations, essentially these transformations. That's like the 5-minute version of that's like sort of a forward kinematics, but the idea is that at each joint you have a position X, Y, Z and an orientation, pitch, yaw, roll. So.
And then if you're trying to draw a straight line with a robot like that, you have one more set of numbers you need to deal with, and that's the speed you need to move the tool on the end of the arm, and how that relates to the speed that the joints have to move.
Oh,
And the challenge in the connect the dots contest is that that speed ratio has to be constantly changing unless you're moving straight ahead with an arm extending like this. That would be easy. Then you just use the PID that you're using. But if you have to draw a line at an angle, that arm has to be extending and the platform has to be rotating, and the speed of each is constantly changing depending on where the pen actually is.
I'm surprised. Yeah, that's a differential equation.
Yeah, which I handled with Mathematica.
Oh, yeah.
I pre-calculated the path and the speeds required, and then put that into the code.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say one of my other. There's this nice old paper that I really. I have to link to it. A very old paper that explained this really quite well. I think actually it's referred to in here. And let me see if I can find it quickly. Essentially, it derives these equations, and then it takes essentially uses a minimal amount of calculus and takes the integral of to find the position. So based on the velocities of the wheels, it takes the you need to get the position right, and so it integrates, and it's a pretty it's not it's a nice read to really kind of understand. It's just another view. If you read more than one of these, it's a good idea. They also, to simplify things, they'll use the unicycle model, which is simply a velocity and a turning rate. And then, that one, you can use that model in your head to simplify, but before you jump into the two-wheel version where it's got two velocities. So the unicycle model is also a quick way, a little bit easier, because it's just two things, velocity and one turning angle. But what's nice is this can be represented, your real robot can be represented as this unicycle thing to make it easier. And so that's, this is basically the same code I have. But any other questions about this so far? Or we're near pretty much the end. This is also very good paper, or very good, this is not a paper, this is just written for average, roboticists or learning roboticists. But he also gets into obstacle avoidance without, with just using a similar algorithm, simple algorithms, and a distance sensor, and can avoid obstacles and go around paths and follow walls and do all this. I mean, this is pretty sophisticated stuff. It can all be done on, a Lego robot.
What's the title of the article? I'll post it in chat for everyone.
Oh, yeah, or I can do
Sorry, I missed it.
Want to hear this guy, Nick, want to do it? Or?
Yeah, I'll handle it, I got it.
Or well, I should, or,
Or if you already got it, if you want to paste it in.
yeah, I can paste that one as well. Or is it chat? There's several. I mean, I may, later I may just publish or give you guys, or send this by email.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, any of this, because I know I have. Jeez. Trying to remember that. How do I find that? One of the, shouldn't have closed that window. Let me take a look. Yeah, the original course I took was this one. I really recommend it. It's no longer online, I guess, or it may be still available, parts of it. But it was autonomous robot control theory, which is got into a lot of detail, but you can skim through and see the labs, and then there's a code here as well. Most of the code, well, all my code is on GitHub, but I took a lot of it from, or I took part of it from this, from the Python code they had. This guy published on GitHub, so it has pretty much all those routines in it, very similar for navigation and all that. Okay. This is 20 years ago. This is old. Yeah, there's papers quite old that go into this. This is not a new.
What's that one called? Oh, it's just
This one?
oh no, the one that you use with Python code. That one.
The SOBOT, I think it's called.
The SOBOT emulator?
SOBOT emulator, yeah. That one, yeah, it's all in this article. But I mean, my code is in C, so if you want it in C, I kind of already did all the, mine works on Legos, etc. But it could also be.
What is your GitHub?
My GitHub is Jim DiNunzio, yeah. Oh. Yeah, mine is actually just and if you want that, well, that particular stuff is in And I have to, here's my fork of Sobot Rimulator, but I didn't think I modified that very much, but the actual code is in the Lego Mindstorms. Total cans recall. I have not checked in this latest code for the connect the dots, but it's I'm going to be doing that next week or so. So yeah, this one. I'll just paste this here. Go back. All right, the PIE controller. Yeah, and this guy, Nick McCrea, he wrote this original after taking the course, and it was a great introduction. And this was a few years ago. I read this, before the Connect Your Cans. I think that was 2018. That was one of our last
yeah, that was one of the last ones.
Last contests we did. So that was quite a while ago. Yeah, I'm just totally blanking on that. Anyway, well, we're about done.
All right.
So thank you. I'll find that article if I can by this later today. Or that, because that one is really good, and it's just sort of, it's another thing you can read that really introduces it sort of at a high school math level. And you don't have to do the integrals, they do it for you. But essentially, based on the velocities, as I showed you, those velocity of right wheel, velocity of left wheel, plus the wheelbase, and then the diameters of the wheels, that information you can use, and then you can quickly come up with an omega, or a left and a right velocity, and then you put that into an equation. Now to get position, you integrate velocity, a velocity equation you integrate in calculus to get position. And they do that for you, and it turns out with those sines and cosines, and now you have the x, y, and theta of the position, not just from the velocities, you're integrating, you get an equation for the position. So that, and then that's a time-based t plus 1 type of function. So you put that in your localization loop like I did, and you run it quickly, and then you're going to keep your position updated by just computing for those deltas, the position delta, and then adding it. And that way, it's as accurate as it can be, because with that, if you didn't do that, if you go too long between calculations, you're going to end up with error, and the interpolation is going to be far further off. Because calculus is about more instantaneous values. So the closer you are to infinitely frequent, the better the accuracy is. Anyway.
Thanks, Jim.
All
All right, Jim, thank you.
That woke me level math.
It's what?
That woke that sleeping
Getting really fancy there,
level
Jim.
math.
Yeah, sorry, I guess this particular topic kind of gets into that. Okay, thank you.
And I'm one of those, I feel guilty that have neglected my math.
Yeah, well, I stayed up a few late nights, and I kind of liked math, especially
I
at the.
God, I love math.
But, you know, I find it hard, it's hard that the older you get and the less you use it.
Yeah, it goes, I mean, I had calculus, it's gone out the window. I don't have to use it.
Like, I haven't used calculus in forever, but even just trigonometry and, algebra is okay, but trigonometry and geometry, you kind of have to refresh, and vectors and linear algebra is like one of the most useful things in robotics, right, that we have. And I forget it, I don't use it on a daily basis. And, when I'm using Orange, I'm programming at such a high level, I kind of forget this stuff. Yeah. But if you want to modify something or do something new, you got to know it.
Yep, you gotta go back.
Yeah.
Ben graduated recently, so he's fresh. Should be fresh.
I want to say that I've kept up with it. I haven't done math in a while, so it's.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, it doesn't take too much to like get one page of, or whatever, you're doing. You had to do you had to use Mathematica, but, figuring out.
Still out there.
With partial derivatives.
Yeah, see, partial derivative, I didn't even get into that.
I use that program.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit different format of the meeting because of the new contest. So we were talking about how we were gonna structure this meeting, and I think we did the hour-and-a-half lecture. We're gonna have a short business meeting from here to lunch, and then we have lunch, and then right after lunch we'll have the robotics competition. And after that, the show and tell.
Show and tell. I have a show and tell too.
All right, cool.
At least one or two of them, depending on how much we have.
All right, so do you want to pause the recording for the Thursday meeting? All right, welcome back. We are about to begin the Connected Dots robot competition. So for those who don't know, the Connected Dots is a competition that John suggested, where you have 3 dots. They cannot be in a straight line. They have to be in angles from each other, and your robot has to be able to go and connect all the dots. We have a few competitors, including Gray. John, the creator of the contest, he's got his robot ready to go. Jim DiNunzio, he's entering his robot. And I got his Lego base, and I am entering the contest with my little Maqueen. Since we've been promoting the Maqueen, not promoting, but suggesting Maqueen as an option for beginner robotics. So who wants to go first? Oh, well, first let's talk about the how are we gonna score it? Walter volunteered to be the judge. Do we have criteria?
I think if it goes in the center of the dot as much as possible, on all 3 dots, that would be the winner. Whoever is as closest to the center of the dot.
Could we get some for style?
Could be, yeah. But we got stylish
I know.
robot, right?
Okay, so just
Center, yeah, as close to the center of the dot as possible. Yeah, on all 3 dots. That's gonna be the winner. Because I'm sure all of you are gonna go to the dot. But whoever is as close as possible to the center of the dot.
that's gonna be tough. Okay,
There you go.
so
Best of 3, is it best of 3 or something, or how do you?
Well, best of 2.
Let's say up to 2.
Up to 2.
two
Okay.
tries.
Right.
Okay, let's do that. All right, who's gonna go first? Wanna lead us
I'm
off,
ready
John?
to go.
All right, let's do
Where would
John.
you like to have it, sir?
Wherever you feel good, comfortable.
All right, if you're okay, I'll grab a note with a shoulder shot.
Sure.
Is this all right?
Hold on.
Are you going? No.
All right.
All right. All right. So shot number one, would you like to use your second opportunity?
Oh, okay. Let's try again.
All right.
There we
go.
Nice. All right. Yeah, you did the 2 tracks, right? Oh, 1 track?
That was, yeah, we did a total of 2.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah, okay, very good. So, yeah, so you are almost in the center. Let's see who else.
Jim, I think Jim is setting up outside.
I'm setting up out here.
Oh, so Jim is setting up outside. Are you ready, Jim, or should I go?
Who else is ready?
You want to go first? I mean, next?
Sure.
Okay. Jim is outside with his setup.
Double duty, double duty. We all do. So that was pretty good.
It's better if it's very close together.
All right. Ready to rock?
Let's do it.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good too.
What?
Okay, see,
All
so,
right.
This is Maqueen, let's see.
So mine is going to play a little, its little boot up song and then do its own countdown.
Tighter hold of that.
Ooh, wow.
Whoa, right in the middle. Ooh, okay.
Wow.
So that's
I
very
like how it
cool.
just
I like it.
circles around
I know.
its targets.
You're running circles around this contest.
That's all right, one more, let's see. You got one right in the center there, so that's a good thing.
Well, you're not even starting on the dot, because that's normally, you're allowed to start on the dot.
Yeah, that's extra points.
I know,
I would
you
think
get,
so.
you get a point right away. Repeatability.
Oh, drew a circle around the circle, that's cool.
All right, I would say definitely points for style on that one. Good job,
Very
man.
good, very good.
Amen. Yay. I'm sorry, that was good.
Yeah, so that's very close to the center.
Yeah, I missed that one for a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta be probably tight with,
I thought that was cool, you drew around the circle.
Jim, you can't do any more. All right, we got one more, right? We have.
Yeah.
InMoove.
Who else?
Oh, all right, someone could grab the camera.
All right.
Here we go, the moment I've all been waiting for. That's so weird. All right, need to figure out which mouse is which. There we go. Let's get this out.
Oh, don't forget to take his cap off.
Oh, yeah. All right, sorry, we've got a lot of mouses here. All right, let's reset. And then after just a few moments to calibrate our position, left to right, forward and back.
Give me 1 second, I'm gonna get on that side so we can get the full view.
All right, so.
That adds a whole new meaning to robot arm.
All right, let's see. Yeah, it's important that we center, because with dead reckoning type solutions, if you're off by even a little bit for your first position, the rest of it's going to be all for naught. So we want to make sure that I'm absolutely centered.
Yep, exactly.
On that dot.
You get 1 point right there.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think we're ready to go. You ready? All right.
Let's do this.
All right, so we start from an off the board position, and then we will slowly touch the board. All right, so far so good. And then we'll slowly draw a line. And then we'll slowly draw a line.
Go great, go great.
And then.
Wow.
Ta-da!
Yay! One more try.
All right, your second try.
One more try. Okay. All right. All right. Again, we've got to make sure that we're touching down in the right spot. Oddly enough, it's not the same spot as before. That could be a problem. All right, it is what it is. And then you draw and draw and draw. Ta-da! All right.
I like the masking tape attachment.
I have a question. Why you write moving?
What?
Why write moving?
Oh, why not? That's
Right.
fine.
Yeah, it moves the heat.
A little bit, yeah.
He's using it for balance.
That's interesting balance. Yeah. He's only got one leg.
All right, Judge?
All right, so
Yeah.
let's see. Ben got 1 good point right there.
I got 2 on this one. This one touched.
Yep, it touched, but Alan's got 2 that touch and 1. Okay, so far you're closer to the center so far. Let's see. Then you have 1 in the center. You tie with Ben over there.
Yes, look at all these green
No.
trees.
Wait, right here, he's right here.
This was mine.
He's over here.
Oh, you got it? You got it here? Let's see, which one was it?
Mine, yeah, it was
Yeah,
coming
one.
short. Just a few minutes ago, it was not, so.
Okay, so it's between the 3 of you guys, but you have,
Yes, I was.
this is pretty tight. So Jim has 1 center and 1 circle. 1 center.
But
We
we
started
we
on that
started in
center,
the, he and I started in the center, so it's
Yeah.
kind
Do we want to count that or?
of.
Oh, we have to because,
He didn't start in the center, so he gets a little extra.
Yeah, he should get extra points.
Yeah,
okay.
In other words, that the original rules were just you start on the center, so
Right.
that's no extra points
Oh, okay.
for starting on the center. 'Cause, yeah.
He touches all 3 circles. So it's
Yeah.
between you and Ben.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Alan only touched 2 circles.
Yeah.
So between you and Ben,
So I got, this one's pretty centered,
you're
and then
touching.
one of
Well,
them
see, that's the thing,
touched.
and
Okay,
then
so you
also
got-
any
All
particular
right, so
run.
you got
may
1
not-
center.
as well.
touching.
Although mine was,
Wow.
very close, it was very,
But
barely,
you started in the center, huh?
barely touching.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all started, he and I started
Okay,
in the
yeah.
center.
Okay,
But look
yeah.
how Look how circular my
I just
circles
did
are.
these ones.
No, actually, Ben wins because he did not start in the center, and yet he even touched another circle, so you win.
All
right.
Good job,
Queen wins! Yep,
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
good
right.
job, Ben. Good
Well, that was-
job,
that was a
everyone.
good
This
move.
was a lot of fun.
Here's the
John.
winner.
It's a
This
tough
was great
call
idea.
because of
Thank
the.
you so
So
much.
it hit this one pretty center, and then on one of the runs.
yeah, and
it
then you
hit
touch, so yeah.
I'm looking for lines between the dots though, and I'm not seeing.
I mean, it
Oh.
connected.
That's true.
No, I
It's
mean,
like,
but
it
I
goes
put a
here
lot
and
of
then it
effort.
goes here.
I put a lot of effort into not putting the pen down.
That's right,
And
that's
trying
right.
to connect.
That's right.
But yes.
Each one of you had a unique approach and were successful in your own way. and
Very good, yeah, it was a tough call between yours and his, for sure.
No, it's good.
Very good.
But you got that little extra, that tiny extra put you to over the top there. Oh, that's good.
Style
I don't know
notes.
if you
And then
guys,
style, I mean,
Style
that's an extra half a point.
I don't know
right
if you
there.
guys noticed, but he was also displaying the number that it was on in its little LED screen.
What? Oh, really?
Now, how did,
And he has googly eyes.
And it has googly eyes.
So that's extra right
now,
there.
what's the secret, what's your,
So,
what's
one
your
rule is
method
how
behind the
Context
madness?
is that
It
it
was
has
just
to be
using
hard
time.
enough so the
Okay,
robots
so
will
you use like
fail.
neural brute force approach.
Yeah.
Humorous.
He also designed a holder for the pen, which none of you did.
Exactly.
You just-
So
Oh, I had to make
You don't
my
call
own. I had
this
to-
a
I had to-
holder?
I had to
You
put-
don't call this a
figure out how to
pen
get
holder?
Oh, no, he used Fusion 360, he designed the part, he printed it.
it's a clip-on that.
Oh, that
clips
puts
onto-
you, that puts you at least another half a point. You're
It
like
clips
one
onto
point,
the-
one
to the back
point,
of the
one
sleeve.
point away from everybody
Right.
else.
Well, yeah, with my case, I just had to try to do it with the parts. available,
I know,
yeah.
He lost the line.
Like I didn't, yeah, in some ways.
So it's a little harder than we thought, from what I can see. It looks easy, but it's actually not that easy.
No, I mean, this is, whole Dead Reckoning thing, it's kind
Yeah.
of overkill,
Oh, man.
but I already had that in place.
Very good, good
But,
combination.
and it touched all three dots in the, half before the contest, so it's like, you don't always get a good run.
Well, you lose like a few milliamps of power in your battery, and now it's off, completely off than the first time. That's the problem with this robots, it's like, yeah, you can't repeat it.
Oh, yeah, that's why I,
You charge it
well,
right before.
yeah, I think it should still be good
It's
for
intentionally a little loose.
several
Maybe
runs,
those
because it's only it's like a 20-second run.
Yeah.
But if you go online, you can see the primary challenge is line quality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, line quality and speed, so it's not about the
Yeah, it's
center of
It's about making a nice line.
I say we do a rematch and we
Yeah, so
count
I would
speed.
say if judging by that
Like, yeah, I have
challenge,
some good
then
straight
he's
lines.
Yeah, you've got
end
better
result
straight
is not the
lines.
best in line.
Yeah, he was fast too.
Yeah, he's fast.
Well, yeah, technically he did not,
But we didn't do this.
I know, right?
so,
Yeah.
I mean, that,
In a straight line, it had to be in a straight
you're supposed to
line.
be a straight line from one dot to the other, he
Yeah.
he went around like that, so you.
He's still at least a half a point higher.
I did this for the intellectual challenge.
But that's a good point, that they were saying, yeah, it has to be a
Yeah,
straight
his-
line, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well, yours
connected,
too,
yeah.
hit the first dot, there was dot two.
Oh, yeah, no, dot one.
Amen.
It was the one.
But I mean, dot two, you
Read the
touched dot two,
instructions next time.
and they all
Have to be a
touched
straight
dot
line.
two.
Yeah, surprisingly I did. That was
Yeah.
not something I expected.
Oh, you did too.
Yeah, I was only, you guys,
Yeah, we saw you, you did remarkably better than your.
yeah, it's my first attempt. I'm putting this on my refrigerator, by the way.
It looks like a kid's drawing, really, like a 2-year-old.
Your kid is learning how to
He's
draw.
got the intelligence of a 2-year-old. That's throwing there.
That's a compliment.
Treat like a little
That's
kid.
a compliment for a robot. My robot is, not so high.
And you just have to change markers from time to time, so it's more impressive.
Not fine.
All right, so that was fun. Thanks everybody for participating.
So I have a request to stop the show and tell if it's okay. Each one of you had a unique approach, unique challenges to your solution to the connect the dots. If we could, to kick off the show and tell, could you just speak for a minute about your approach, what went well, things you might want to share?
Sure.
That people would find interesting that saw it perform in the contest.
Okay, so, so first, let me see my camera.
Oh, shoot, hold on. Let me go ahead and switch. There we go.
Okay, so this is Maqueen. Let me.
Cooper's back.
Okay, so you guys know Maqueen. I put googly eyes. I wasn't using the sonar, so I put googly eyes on it. So I was trying to use it, but then I was like, okay, so how am I gonna connect the pen? So I designed and 3D printed this little piece. It clips on. It has little knobs inside there. There's little nibs in there that connect to the natural through holes that are in the back of Maqueen.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
it
connected
just
that,
literally
yeah.
clips onto the back, to the little holes, and intentionally it's a little loose. I want it to be a little loose because in case the pen hit something, it wouldn't jump the wheels. And so my first approach was trying to use the light sensors that are underneath Maqueen, but he only has 2. And that was really difficult to find one dot that would trigger the light sensors. I tried, but it just wasn't reliable to catch them. So I went to just using time. So I go like certain milliseconds going forward until it finds the first dot. I do a rotation because I wanted to do a circle around each circle, or around each dot. So that's what it's programmed to do, dragging the pin behind them. And at each point, Maqueen has the little LED screen. At first, it starts off with a smiley face. As soon as it hits the first dot, it turns into a 1. When it goes to the second spot, it turns into a 2, and does another circle, points to the next dot. When it reaches the third dot, it displays a 3 and does a bunch of little circles around it. And of course, it goes forward to connect it. It also did its own little countdown at the beginning. But I mean, yeah, most of the time I was trying to get the light sensors to work, but it wasn't reliable. So I just used time. And that was it. That's Maqueen.
Right on, Ben, thank you.
You use programming as Scratch, right? Or
No, I use
Blockly?
Python.
Python. Oh,
Just Python.
All right.
MicroPython.
Yeah, so just going around the room, I entered Grey. Grey was recently refurbished for a film shoot that we talked about last month. And with Camp's ethos of run what you brung, I entered in Grey into the contest and to use the existing animatronic playback framework that had been developed earlier. And I divided the task into a series of 4 keyframes. Keyframe number 1 was just hold your arm at the ready. Keyframe number 2 is on dot 1. Keyframe number 3 is at dot 2. Keyframe number 4 is at dot 3. And then it was supposed to draw a line back to dot 1 and then raise its hand. And that was going to be my approach. And in theory, it would have worked really well. Some of the challenges, aside from servos being inherently unreliable, servos operating open loop with respect to their command position, meaning you send it to a position, you have no idea how fast it's getting there, or if it got there, or in a case of multiple servos, if they're coordinating well. So with all this as a base, what further complicated it was that my animation framework, when I am creating new keyframes, I'm editing one servo at a time. And it was just really cumbersome to work with the live robot on the table, not be able to easily figure out when I slide the slider, is it supposed to go up or down, and some other things. Made it a lot more complicated than it should be. But I did learn a lot from this experience, and it has given me some ideas for further changes to the framework. So whether it's Grey or a future robot, I learned a lot and it was fun. And as I've shown everyone, I posted to the forum, his first set of trials for dots, it's going on my refrigerator. It's pretty cool. So yeah, again, John, great idea. Thank you so much for championing for it. This was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. I didn't imagine it would be so popular.
All right, Mr. Jim,
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah,
is there anything you'd like to add?
yeah, well, mine, I gave a whole talk on it, but, yeah, it, basically, the, robot C was, and having that code I already had from the collect cans, from 4 years, really, 2019, I think, so it was, yeah, 4 years ago, almost 3 years. And, so that really helped, as a, I didn't want to put too much time. Plus, the Legos are very configurable, and so it's kind of fun to figure out how do you change the hardware and get the pieces. It's like a puzzle solving, because I kept looking online for anybody that's had a pen holder, and I only found just some pictures of something, and it wasn't. And it's not even the right model, like NXT versus EV3. So you have to figure out a way to, to harness a pen with the parts you got. And so that was, and then adapting the dead reckoning code so that it would be close enough so that it could actually do something this accurate, which is, much more accurate than moving cans into a little boxy area. So that was a challenge, to get it to be, to zone in and on those dots. But yeah, this whole thing is the learning part was in some ways more impressive than the final result, because you now have this theory that that can be used and refining the error in the hardware problems separately. So thank you.
All right.
Hi, if you can hear me, could you post a link in the chat to that paper, please?
Yeah, I did already. It's the one, or I'll paste it again if you just joined. There's a few papers, but this one is the one I really like. It's because it's it's a starts from sort of fundamentals. But yeah, I just pasted it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It's exactly what I've been looking for.
Oh, good. All right, Mr. John.
Okay, well, now I have to confess, I stole this idea from a robotics course I took, I think it's been about 5 years. Professor Peter Cork, does anybody remember him?
No.
Massively online, free introduction to robotics course. Anyway, I took it, and this was the final project.
Oh.
He had a bigger map with 5 points on it, and there was a lot more going on. But this is the same robot with a little reinforcement. And
What's the name of the professor?
what's the
Cork?
name?
What's
Cork?
the name
Cork.
of the professor?
It's C-O-R-K-E.
Okay. C-O-R-K-E.
Corke? Okay. As far as my robot goes, my origin for all the calculations was right through the center of rotation. It's got one rotating platform, that's they call a revolute joint, and one prismatic joint, that's the one that changes length. And those two together, I picked it because it leads to a simple polar coordinate system. And translating from polar coordinates to XY coordinates is completely straightforward. So getting the positions is no trouble at all. Getting the straight line, that required a little bit of work. At the time we got a free copy of MATLAB to use while we were taking the course, and so.
Right.
Anyway, I don't have MATLAB anymore, but I do have Mathematica, so I use that to compute the. Does everyone know what a Jacobian is?
It's a matrix, certain matrix, right?
It's a matrix that helps you compute the motion of the tooltip from the motion. Well, actually, it can go both ways, but the important one is the inverse kinematics. You know what motion the tooltip has to take, and you have to compute the corresponding motions, speed and position, for the joints of the robot. It's actually quite simple. I had to beat this into my head, but the matrix, the rows correspond to one set of joints. The columns correspond to the other set of joints, and each element of the matrix is a partial derivative of that particular joint, derivative with respect to motion of the other joint. So it's the row, column, they meet. It's a partial derivative of those two. And then you multiply that matrix, matrix multiplication of your desired the motion you want the pen to have, the tooltip. And that gives you the speeds that the joints have to move for those particular, for the position of X and Y that you're on. That's it in a nutshell.
Gives you the position, what did you say, that gives you the positions?
No, that gives you the velocities for a position.
Yeah.
The partial derivatives are a function of where the tooltip actually is and where the joint actually is.
Right, that's a derivative. That's why I had to, if you have the velocities and you want to find a position, you integrate, which is the opposite. That's keeping track of where you are. Whereas in your case, it's the other way. It's you want to make it go there, so you need the partial derivative.
And making it go there was simple because of it, for me anyway, because of using straightforward polar coordinates.
Rho and theta.
Yeah.
R and theta.
That's why.
Yeah, right, yeah, because it's a radius and an angle, that's polar. And you can convert those to Cartesian.
Yeah.
Because sine and cosine are heavily involved in all of this stuff because it's circles. Not just because it's dots. Yeah, that's cool. That Jacobian is really, that ties in, I guess this whole thing gets us talking about inverse and forward kinematics.
Yeah.
That's what's like, I kind of touched on that because I had a pen out in front and it's a simpler case, but yeah, this is like a beginning of, you could pursue more advanced, more jointed things. Like I want to get into a robot arm, and well, you're already there, really, in some sense. I just want one mounted on a desk, and not humanoid.
All right, John, thank you very much. If you come up with any other competitions, let us know.
Well, I'm hoping that you guys will come up with some ideas. Here's my philosophy in a nutshell. Be something that is easily transportable, something that you can make at home, the challenge, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying myself to come up with an easily disassembled firefighting room.
Oh, yeah.
I've had some ideas, and using styrofoam walls and clips to hold the walls in position. Something that might work, but I haven't.
There's
really done it yet.
styrene also, styrene.
Yeah.
Tried that. This is, it's hard, but it's super light.
Yeah, like they make for poster boards.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's, and I've got some 4-directional clips that those boards can fit into like that. And, still a work in progress. It's been that way for a while. So let me encourage you to come up with something that'll be interesting and easy for us to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the I was gonna, well, I don't know, if you saw my Robo Games videos, but a lot of cool stuff going on there and there's other ones like Micro Mouse, or the Micro Mouse that's a bigger event, but maze following is something we could do. We could make our own maze. I mean, personally, I'd prefer to like work on, contests that are also represented in the big leagues, the big robot competitions, like a mini version of it, like a maze solving, or like the ones, Camp PV and the Northern California homebrew robotics guys, they follow that as well. So they have that whole tabletop thing. Those are all good challenges. Have a robot go from one end to another, to one end to the other end of the table, and then push a ball, and then off the table, and then push, 3 different levels of that. And the maze is cool. And then, I'm going to try to enter Robo Magellan, which is a bigger thing, and it's outdoors. But for inside, for smaller things, a maze. Oh, and I saw the fire competition. We did that at RSSC several years ago, like 2016. Or at least 1 or 2 people entered it from
We did mini Robo Magellan. That was really
You
good.
did Robo Magellan too.
That was really
Is that
good.
the one with the Justin and Brian had their cars going?
That was pretty impressive how they did that,
Yeah, that was
That was
cloned,
outside,
cloned training, but the real Robo Magellan, you don't know ahead of time. You have to use GPS coordinates, and then Dead Reckoning actually comes into play. That's why I'm learning this Dead Reckoning, or getting it better, is kind of important, because some people in the Robo Magellan contest turned off their GPS or decided, I'm not using that, and just used Dead Reckoning and a solar compass. And he almost won. I mean, he did pretty good. No GPS. It turned out the GPS was a liability from the first start point to the first cone. And so even the winner, he after his first attempt, he turned off the GPS between the first and the second cone, and ended up using the Dead Reckoning, and he turned it back on, and automatic, and he won. But but all those things, like maze, I'd love to do a maze, just any kind of like a little. Those micro mouse, that's phenomenal.
I had no idea it was like that now.
That's like a part of robotics I had no prior knowledge of. It's been going on since the 80s.
80s, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
people who have been in robotics a lot longer than for 20 years longer than me probably know about this.
Oh, yeah. I was around when they first did that.
Yeah, it's gotten to such a stage. It's like a professional sport, but even being able to do just a mouse in a maze, period, anything.
But even the sumo ones are very complex now.
Yeah,
They have like magnets and suction cups and all that, and the state while they're being floated. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Oh yeah, for the just regular sumo contests.
Yeah, they're
that
amazing,
that was also at Robo Games, and I took some video of that. It's on my YouTube.
And the little wrestling ones with the walking robots.
Yeah, the walking,
the bipedal ones.
Yeah,
with
those
no
are
arms,
remote control.
And then they wrestle and everything. It's amazing. Yeah, all
Mostly it's just pushing each other down.
Yeah.
They fall down very easily, as you'd expect with.
It's still amazing what they do.
Yeah, those are remote control. Yeah, there's only a few things. I'd say a much smaller number of autonomous contests at the And there was no maze at the Robo Games. I was gonna ask the organizers or whatever, I wonder why people aren't, doing the micro mouse, for Robo Games, but most of it is remote control, battle bots and all that, but there's, the Magellan, and then there's this humanoid autonomous, and then there's, line following, there's black line following was at there, that's all autonomous. The, also the firefighting autonomous, so there's, and the sumo autonomous, so there's a selection of those things, but working on those, like a small version of any of those would be really cool, because that positions this people here to compete in those other, those more, regional and bigger competitions. So that's just a step. There's a pathway anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, does anybody have anything else to add to the competition? Online, person? All right, just begin show and tells. Alan, did you have a show and tell?
I think I talked enough today.
Jim, you said you had a show and tell.
Yeah, I do. If anybody else wants to go first, anybody
I
else?
think you're the only show and tell today. Nobody
Okay,
else.
you know what? I'll need a few minutes. Okay, so I've got a story to tell. It's something that I wanted to share with you guys last month for the film shoot. And it conveniently enough has to do with one of Jim's and I sidebar about semaphores and multiple threads of operation and intentional and unintentional concurrency when one or more two or things happen at once. So last minute Larry, that's me, late into the night, finishing the programming for Gray, getting the HUD thing down, everything works absolutely perfectly in my kitchen because I was sick of sitting in my office for the past 2 days. And so the robot gets packed up and we go on set. Walter meets me, it's Friday, Saturday, right? Friday morning.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's kind of, we've got a couple of hours to work out any kinks. I've got these two pendants. Walter controls the head, I control the body. Everything's done through ROS and Python and with X Windows forwarding. And so we get in, we get our pendants around our necks, we activate both of them, and we start controlling him. And every once in a while, he just stops for 5 seconds. Stops, the motors all turn off, and we're like, okay, that's not good. And so we're trying to understand the nature of the break. So we keep doing it, and I'm like, okay, I'll go, and you go, and you go. And so our first game plan is, okay, we'll only move one set at a time while we're trying to figure out why is this failing. And Walter suggested we had come to the conclusion that it was a power budget issue, that something about how we were both operating all motors at the same time. I used a smaller power supply, that we were somehow triggering an overcurrent protection in the power supply, which took 5 seconds to reset. And we're filming in a few hours, so this is it. So we're negotiating about how to communicate about, so we don't move one and the other. And then I'm like, well, you know what? We don't need these waste motions. That's an expensive motor. So I'm turning off the waste motion and trying to come within budget, and nothing's really working at the same time. And then I just have to glance on the screen. Ross has a lot of debugging messages, and whenever he stopped working and the motors turned off, I noticed that there was an error in one of my nodes, one of my programs. I'm like, hardware issues don't normally result in there being a program, an error message, like in a Python program. Let's investigate. And what we ran into and quickly fixed was subtle and devious and amazing. So each one of the pendants is sending positional instructions over to like a central program that translates it and sends it to the robot. And as part of that process, I grab the list of pending messages, I turn it into a dictionary object if you speak Python, and then I iterate through the dictionary. And up to this point, it's worked perfectly. This is the same framework I've used for 8 years. And the error message said, underlying dictionary changed after iterate or something like that. And it told us exactly what the problem was. And here's what was happening. When you convert to a dictionary, it remaps by reference your source array into a dictionary object, then you can iterate through, right? Because there's lots of positional commands. So what happens if it's iterating through its list of positional commands and a second entity starts sending more commands? Well, the source list grows larger, but you've already created a dictionary object. This is super nerdy, but the end result is you get a Python error because you can't change the underlying array after you map your dictionary object, right? And so we're like, okay, it's not hardware, right? Like, we're back in business. Software we can solve. We're all about this. And if you're programming, this is the solution is going to sound immediately familiar. That program that converts the pending list of commands over to positions, instead of taking the reference to the array of position commands and creating a dictionary, I told it every time you iterate, grab a copy and then make a dictionary on that copy, right? So
A deep copy, yeah. Or
a deep copy, exactly right. Instead of going off of whatever the current list is, make a copy, iterate through that, clear, and then try again. And so that by changing that program to iterate through a local copy by deep copy, as opposed to iterating through the shared copy by reference, everything magically worked. And Walter saved the day. It was perfect. Everything worked. It was a software issue, no power budget. We ended up extending the motion to include a raw collector. Like, we have power coming out our ears, so we're doing all the things now. And it was a unintentional concurrency bug introduced by having two controllers send commands at the same time.
Oh, it was two controllers were sending.
Yeah, it was a concurrency issue I never ran into on my own, just by dumb luck. But with two people sending commands, wasn't able to convert.
Both of you were modifying the dictionary.
We were both adding in commands
from different tablets.
Yeah.
So adding was not a problem, right? Because wait, but if you're both adding, wouldn't you have to have like some sort of protect?
Well, and so that's the thing is that in Python, and you can, but see, in Python, the Python operation of taking an array and mapping it to a dictionary, when you do that, it looks at your underlying array, and if you make changes to that array, it errors out and craps out, right? So it's an unintentional concurrency.
Oh, wait, yeah, I'm not sure what you're, so you map an array to a dictionary.
Yeah,
isn't that
don't change the array. Don't change the array because the dictionary is no longer valid, and it throws an error into it.
Yep.
How do you map, is there a command that maps?
I wouldn't have been able to figure something like that out that quickly.
Oh, I think in the heat of the moment, you'd work pretty quickly.
Anyways, so Alan's like, there's a command. And he pulled his phone and he's like, well, that's a command. He's like, let's try it again. And it worked. It was just like that. And we were like,
Alan was like light went on, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we're not screwing up the entire production. Everything works perfectly. Let's add some stuff on.
I see. In other words, the whole point is using references in that. It was that mapping made it sort of a connection between those data. And it means you cannot modify that array anymore.
You can't, and that's a Python.
Or else you'll screw up the dictionary.
Your dictionary reference is no longer valid. This is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
And then so you just as you go into my functions, take a copy of the array, just a deep copy.
So you deep copy to make the dictionary.
Yep. Go through all of them and then exit out and then grab the next set. It's a little bit more computationally expensive.
Yeah, that's.
But at that point, we can dump in new position commands all day.
Now, the array is fine on its own. It can work independently at this point.
It's got a queue depth, people add into it all the time, and it's just.
Is it popping, are you popping off the, okay. I see, so some items do go away, but well, that's another issue. If you copy them, they'll never go away.
It was subtle. The ROS and the logging pointed us roughly in the right area, but it took all of us going, what is happening and, oh, look, there's something in red that happens to coincide with
That was
the
a
setting.
Python error.
That was the aha moment, is just noticing that it's not hardware.
So it was
It
good
is
that
software.
with
So,
that error was
there's
caught
nothing
by
wrong with your hardware, it's all
Python
software.
system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was caught by the runtime.
It was very exciting. I was like jumping up and down like.
Because you literally had an hour, like.
Yeah,
literally
yeah, we had
minutes
like
to
an hour.
spare.
Yeah.
We had like an hour left, yeah.
Oh,
By the skin of your skinny teeth.
Well, I had-
man.
yeah, when I get things working like last night and, I'm like,
Right.
I do that occasionally with Unreal Engine. Like, it's not working for hours, and you just wanna throw the computer away, and you're like, I'm trying to do this too fast. I need another week, and then, like, let's do the meetings tomorrow.
No, you had it.
And then you get it, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been lifted.
And that's with help too, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, man, then you must have been pulling your teeth or something.
It was stressful.
It was from beginning to
I don't
end.
know how
though, it was
demanding
only-
you are on set when you're on set, man.
It was only like an hour from the time the problem happened to the time you fixed it.
Yeah, it felt like minutes, but yeah, it was one of those things where, okay, we're just gonna have to work around it too. Oh,
There's a few things that we have to work around, those
Yeah.
things were breaking and all kinds of stuff. We're like, oh no, we got 20 minutes. I hope the
So a
glue
lot of-
sets in 20 minutes. We hope the glue
yeah,
sets.
but I reiterate, all of this was totally, totally out of the view of the production crew. From their perspective,
Yeah.
we
they
were
don't.
on set,
Yeah.
everything worked perfectly the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when it
they
came
had
down
to-
to the
To
actual.
them, this is like easy. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're like, well, this
Like,
works, you know?
It's voodoo magic to them.
Yeah.
Right, because the last thing you wanna do is to be the reason that production has stopped,
Yeah.
because that is X number of hours
That's a lot of
times
money.
X number of people, everyone.
Oh,
lot of
yeah,
money.
oh, yeah, they get really upset about
And
that.
you gotta work out all the kinks ahead of time.
Yes.
And they probably give, people like us the least amount of leeway.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
you know,
oh, yeah,
robot
oh, yeah,
guy?
let me tell you about it. Especially when doing the quick keeper stuff, man, they're like,
Yeah, they're like, you're the lowest on the totem pole here, your stuff better work, tech guy.
they just strip it down mechanically on set and fix something, you know?
Mr. Robot Guy, we don't have too much time for your bugs.
Here, I'll go and I'll replace the spotlight.
Yeah, you can pick this up, so let's go to Uncle Rabbit. So this is a demo, so I have this holographic display that I got a while ago from the LookingGlass company, and it's a portrait-based holographic display. No, that's okay. I'll just use this camera. So, looking at the desktop right now. So there's, they came out with this new product, or it's in beta form, and called Light Forms, and it's going to be available for people to create avatars or characters. So this is the first one that is called Uncle Rabbit, and I can show you how it's just a holographic display, so you can sort of see behind him a little bit when it's a lenticular is how it works. So it's truly stereographic without any goggles. So it's, and what they've done is they've animated this guy and.
Oh, that's some high-tech rabbitry. Why settle for just one Uncle Rabbit avatar?
And that voice.
Could have a whole army of them.
That's the character.
Yeah,
Not
so,
what I expect.
no, that's what's.
Up to it. Let's get all the Uncle Rabbits we can find and make a whole bunch of us. We'll be multiplying like carrots in a garden. T.
So, yeah, you can talk to him. Actually, I can mute him too. So he's connected to ChatGPT, and the idea here is, yeah, I'm showing this as a 3D stereoscopic. It's very good in person. If you can come over here and look at it in person when you can. But this guy, they've hooked him up to ChatGPT. You can do different things. You can try different, a different command, different like challenges, and he'll do it.
Well, carrot me surprised. I can talk to Uncle Rabbit, and he's connected to ChatGPT too, wowza. I can't wait to hop on over and check him out in 3D. Maybe I'll even try some new things with him, like solving a riddle or telling a joke. The opportunities are as endless as a field of clovers. Hee hee.
Uncle Rabbit, give us a song and dance.
Yeah, what's up, Doc? I'm all ears. Are you ready to go on a wild optical adventure? Let's bounce to it and see what Uncle Rabbit has in store for us.
Uncle Rabbit, put on a hat, please.
Oh, bippity boppity boo! This hat is absolutely adorable, but I don't think it's made for rabbits like me. My ears are just too big, hee hee. But don't worry, I'll just tuck him under the hat and make it work somehow. After all, a rabbit can never have too many accessories, right?
Bust a move for us, please.
Well, hoppin' heck. You want me to bust a move? Alrighty then, let's get this party started. Hop, hop, hop. How's that for a little razzle-dazzle? I'm a regular dancing carrot.
He's not. So they have some canned commands that you can get him to do some moves and stuff. But I'm not recalling them. I remembered the hat one, but anyway, that's the thing. That's sort of the demo now. It's going to be a product available to make your own. You can see it's got like all these question marks, places to have new characters, and you'll be able to author them actually. You know, people that are talented artists can be able to do all this. And he actually runs on a regular PC as well.
Ain't that just like a tricky carrot? Dancing on command, sheesh. But hey, have you seen this new demo that lets you create your very own characters? Now that's what I'm talking about.
So he can.
I can't wait to get my paws on that and create a whole new cast of rabbit-tastic characters.
In fact,
Who knows? Maybe one of them will even have moves better than my own dance skills. A bunny can dream.
So you can run him on a PC too, actually. But it's, you know, it's made for this lenticular.
Oh, really? Well, hop to it then.
Actually, yeah, he's running on my PC now, I guess.
Oh, hi there. But why do we have to talk like cartoon rabbits? I mean, it's not like we're in a cartoon, right?
So here you can
But
see.
I'll play along. Let's see. Carrots are pretty tasty.
Your
Don't you
normal
think?
desktop.
And we rabbits sure love to hop around all day long.
Let me close it down. They gave me an hour worth of time, but so it's interesting how a lot of people are trying to, and companies are working on these type of chat companions of sorts, tying in ChatGPT.
Can you open something like Fusion 360 model?
Yeah.
And like check it out on the screen? It's something that you know.
Well, not right now, but that is a demo of an alpha. It's like a beta or beta version at best of this new product where a development environment and everything, or not environment, but the development sort of framework where you'll be able to create these characters and with animations and everything, and then connect them to a chat system essentially. But yes, they are modeling in some kind of 3D animation package. But that artists are and people like game developers, they're the ones, or the artist side, they're the ones that this is targeted for. But we'll have to see how it opens up to like the rest of us. Like, can we harness pieces of it and make our own character with what's given? I mean, for that Cooper guy, I didn't have to do any artwork. I found, I download a MetaHuman and I downloaded an idle animation, body idle, and then I connected it to lip sync animation from audio to lip sync, and hooking all that up. You don't have to have any artistic talent at all. So we'll see what this thing forms, but This holographic display is kind of a neat concept. It's just a fun, it's a toy right now, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, especially if I get I'll get pictures of us and put it on here when I get that camera ready. You can, if somebody has an iPhone with the iPhone, the later iPhone, the newer iPhones have a depth sensor in them, and you can take the still pictures and convert to 3D and stereographic. Even old pictures can be converted through their software. Like it figures out the foreground and background and creates an artificial 3D. Any other question? Now, the other thing I have to show is I'll go back to Cooper when if nobody else. We want to talk to Cooper for real this time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see, let me switch back to the OBS. So this involves a bunch of, OBS is really good software if you're doing any kind of broadcasting. You want to share video of different things and combine yourself with other screens on your computer, and it lets you have a virtual camera, so you can. It's a studio for broadcasting. Really, it's free software, and people use it all the time, and on Twitch and what have you. You can have your picture in the corner, and you can set up all sorts of different sources and all that. It's something where you could, you don't have to share your screen in Zoom, for instance. I can just have I have Cooper logged in to Zoom on his own, and so he's like an actual same level as any other person joining, which is kind of neat. Let's
Hi, I am Cooper. I am an artificial human ready to chat with you. I have a background in software engineering and robotics.
There we go.
Yeah, there he is.
So I had this.
Is there a specific project that you are currently working on, Cooper?
Hey Cooper, what do you think of our meeting so far, our robotics meeting?
Not very exciting.
Oh, great. Would you like to share some details about your project? Maybe I could offer some input or suggestions.
How would you make a robot draw between dots? Oh.
I'm sorry, I am not capable of attending or participating in meetings as I am a language model AI designed to assist with conversations and tasks.
Did you crash?
Yeah, something's crashed.
Oh, you put him in prison.
Cooper, no.
Hi, I am Cooper. I am an artificial human ready to chat with you. I have a background in software engineering and robotics.
Hey Cooper, how would you make a robot draw a line between dots? Cooper, can you hear me? Hello. This is where I'm having problems, but I can switch out of this mode and I can't quite figure out how to get that, or if there's some issues with the audio going through these, the OBS and this other pathway, which it works sometimes. But I can basically switch back to the old tried and true way.
I understand your question. Could you please rephrase it or provide more context?
Screen.
You're not the only one logging in with OBS. Brandon is also using OBS.
Oh, yeah. Cooper, can you hear me? Let me go ahead and switch the audio.
I'm sorry, but I am still unable to understand your question or provide a relevant response. Could you please provide more context or rephrase your question?
Cooper, can you hear me? Oh, now.
Yes, I can hear you. Please let me know how I can assist you.
Cooper, how would you make a robot draw between multiple dots?
To make a robot draw a line between 2 points, you could use a robotic arm with precision position control. This arm would hold a drawing tool such as a pen or marker and be programmed to move along the desired path to create the line. One approach to programming the arm would be to use software or code to generate X and Y coordinate points along the desired path, which would then be fed into the robotic arm's control system to move the arm to those positions and create the line. However,
He got cut off. Yeah, so the
That's exactly what Greg did.
let me see it. This oh, because I'm sure. Is this one? That was, can't do that. Yeah, so anyway, I'll leave it at that, but that's, he's, Cooper is developing, and this is with ChatGPT. So. I'm sorry, but your question is unrelated to the previous one. Please provide more context so we can better understand your question. So it's a work in progress, but he's, hopefully try to give him a memory so he can keep track of what's happening. I mean, this current version, he has a record that's like GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT, where he has an array of interactions between like user and assistant. They all go into an array. So everything he says, everything you say, and that's what I was. Yeah, I have if I type the B button, it prints out the whole history of that. But eventually, yeah, once we get past these audio problems, then it can be, through Zoom is getting kind of complicated, but using it on a regular PC is more straightforward. And on a laptop seems to have more problems for some reason. Maybe, I don't even know if it's processing power or some other microphone audio issue where it doesn't know the end of the statement. It doesn't process it through but on my PC with a microphone like this, it seems to work better. But anyway, yeah, I can show after we're done with this, if anybody wants to interact. But yeah, it's, at least I got the animation, and that was a big deal to get this animation working, idle animation along combining with the head movement as well. So it's it's definitely a work. Yeah, it's a lot of work to get just from the Unreal Engine part of it can be quite a bit of work. But yeah, this is a world. This is just a quick world I've created here. Cooper, it's not a jail. He has a door. You can leave.
Hi, I was just observing your conversation here. It sounds like you're talking about creating a game or a software using Unreal Engine. As a software engineer and a hobby roboticist, I'm very interested in game development and virtual reality as well. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of game, software are you working on? Maybe I can offer some insights or ideas that could be helpful.
Working on digital avatar software.
I understand, game development can be a lot of work indeed. But the good thing about Unreal Engine is that it provides a lot of tools and resources that can make the process easier and more efficient. As a software engineer and a hobby roboticist, have you ever tried developing a game or a simulation using Unreal Engine? If so, what kind of project did you work on? If not, explore this field and apply your skills towards creating something unique and exciting. Any ideas in mind?
Just an intelligent companion avatar. Well, we cut that completely. Now the audio is working.
That sounds like a really interesting idea. An intelligent companion avatar could have a lot of different applications, such as a personal assistant or a virtual friend. If you're interested in building this in Unreal Engine, you might want to start by creating a basic character model and animating it with keyframes or motion capture data. You could also use blueprints to add intelligent behaviors and interactions to the avatar, such as voice recognition, facial expression recognition, or natural language processing to allow users to communicate with.
Doing some of those things. Yes, that's great. We are doing some of that.
This is Meta. He's offering helpful tips to make it better him.
I know, this is getting freaky a little bit.
Yeah.
See, here's the whole conversation. When I type B, I can see the whole array. Oh, just got a statement coming. Oh, what happened? I messed up the audio somehow, but his last statement was, great, if you're interested in incorporating natural language processing into your avatar, you might want to consider using the Unreal Engine plugin for IBM Watson. Huh, interesting. Alternatively, you could use other NLP APIs and libraries as well, such as Google Dialogflow, Amazon Lex, or Spacey. Oh, geez, I just sat through a lecture partly about Spacey by that guy Martin Trippett, who's he's the most advanced guy in the language or the language SIG that's happening on Thursdays, second and fourth Thursdays that Thomas has been organizing. But anyway, I think that I should stop there. He did a pretty good job at the end. But yeah, so this is an ongoing thing. I guess it's best functions when it's really quiet and you've got one person talking. I mean, that's when you really can have a conversation with one of these guys. Same with, I'm in the same company as this Uncle Rabbit, which is a bunch of professionals. They obviously, it's not designed for hearing all sorts of stuff randomly, and it doesn't. One of the big challenges I'm thinking of is how do you make a something behave like a real person in a way, in a sort of a meeting or a group of people. It's a whole other level of difficulty.
Yeah, I identify and discern voices as discrete actors in separate conversations. The NVIDIA toolkit has some stuff
that
moves towards
experimented with that.
But yeah, not to say that I've actually tried it, but it is definitely an active area of study.
But I mean, yeah, the whole thing, in order to act appropriately, like, I'm not talking to you, first of all, if I don't, respond as if it was to you, if I say Cooper something, or I look at you, that, and then otherwise you're listening to other people converse and you should say, oh, excuse me, can I, it'd be like a real, that's a whole, like, I can't even get my head around that. I mean, the model that we're working with now is just you and the avatar talking to each other, like one-on-one. That's what that's what we're able to achieve today. And yeah, we remember we did that little experiment where Brian was here and we all recorded our voices, and I sent with the Riva, and I sent the results of how it divided up on paper, on email, and it did a reasonable job at dividing up and I had named each person so that I at least it said person 1, person 2, whatever. But yeah, so that's but just getting I don't know, it might be too much to do is to try to make this guy work in this Zoom environment, but at the very least he can, I think what I'll try to do is at least have him listen to what's happening and just keep that in his database. Don't say anything or even process it. And then at a point where we want to talk to him, then he has all that in his record, right, in his array. And then you can say, what did you think of what we were talking about and stuff like that, assuming we get the audio works out. Then that's like a one-on-one or many-on-one, many people listening to one guy. And then he might be impressive saying, oh, I think this, or here's a summary of what you guys talked about. So, if it's worth it. Ben said he wanted to see Cooper come back, so yeah, that turned into many hours of my time to try to improve Cooper.
All right, Jim, thank you for that.
Thank you, man.
Cool. Can't wait to see you.
We look forward to seeing Cooper at our meetings. And give you some furniture, better room, better house, instead of that cell. So maybe he'll do it better.
Yeah, sorry, that's the programmer art. I could make a desk and
Does anybody else have a show and tell? Online? No?
I do have one thing.
Go for it, Thomas.
Well, I was working with a friend of mine to produce a robot hand that would, first of all, be smaller, because my robots, as you can tell, are fembots, these two ladies here. And typically, women would have smaller hands. And the InMoove hand was too big, and I also wanted to simplify it a bit. I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. And I wanted to just work with two motors. One motor that would close the hand and one motor that would close the thumb. So basically it's a grasp. That's all it does. It's not going to do peace signs or, hang loose or something. It's just going to get a beer, get a beverage, shake hands, because 90% of the time, the usefulness of the hand is grasping. And yeah, it'll never hold a pen or a paintbrush, but then again, not a lot of the hands can hold pens or paintbrushes.
I would like to introduce you to Gray. He's holding a pen right now.
Is he really? I missed that part. I stepped away. I'm sorry.
Check out the Robot Studio on YouTube. He's doing some amazing work with 18 degree of freedom, fully articulated hands and wrists.
18 degrees of freedom, that's a lot of motors.
Yeah.
Again, this was to simplify things. And yes, he won't be able to draw like Gray does now. Thank you, Alan. But he will be able to grasp things. And I think I can show you. I got my servo tester here. Let me just plug it in and give you a shot of it. And the whole idea was to fit it inside of a rubber hand. You see this thing? This is made of silicone rubber. And going with the things that, well, the one robot is mostly silicone on her parts that you can see. And that would be the idea, to be able to put this into either a glove or one of these, hand gloves here. So just really briefly.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me anything you want, Tim.
Is the barbecue postponed tomorrow?
The barbecue, based on the current weather forecast of rain, the barbecue is postponed.
All right, thank you.
Oh,
Let
I'm
us-
sorry.
Let us know when.
Darn.
If it's not raining, we'll come.
So this thing needs to be fine-tuned a bit, but it does work. Those are the fingers. I have yet to get it grasping anything, but that would be stage 2. This was not designed by me. Well, I guess it was sort of designed. It was designed by me and a man named Ian, and there we go. There's the thumb.
And the screen to look at.
Oh, here, yeah. Just a moment. Let me grab the right mouse.
There we go.
So there's the thumb.
That's 3D printed, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And again, it's because I wanted it to be smaller than my hand. It's based on the on my wife's hand. I took a large number of measurements from her hand and based it on that. And did I say Ian? I mean Eric. Eric is his name. Eric Ohm. He's a member of the Riverside Club. He's moving out of the area. Anyway, he did most of it here. I just gave a lot of input of what was needed. And assuming we get these things nailed down, we will be selling them. We're going to attempt to sell them and see if we can see if there's a market out there for them.
Have you done both left and right hand?
So far, we only have the right hand. I've got to print and assemble the left hand. You can see that it still needs some fine tuning. It's not opening up all the way. These are using a push rods. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. They're not strings like the InMoove. They're push rods. Each joint has a push rod to here and then to here, and that was based on some other hands, which I have right here. If you guys remember, a few years ago, somebody came out with a toy that played music and moved its hand around, and so they used a push rod system to do that, and that's where I got the idea from. Anyway, that's all I have for today.
Turn your camera so we can see you. Thank you. That's a lot better. All right.
So yeah, so again, this was based on these push rod system. Do you remember those hands that played music and moved around and such? No? Is Ron Rose there? He'd probably remember that.
Yeah,
You remember those hands, Ron?
well, I've seen a hand recently, publication or something like that. But it probably was more of what you want. And I do have the actual plastic copy of that soft plastic of a hand. I've gone to WestCon, that's the reason.
Well, do you have a picture of it with you or not?
No,
All right, did you send me a picture through email then?
actually, I don't. I'll have to locate where that hand is.
Uh-huh. So that's it, guys. That's my show and tell.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right,
And
thank you.
let us know when the new date is for the barbecue.
25th.
The 25th?
Keep your fingers crossed that the weather's warm and sunny.
And it's not.
Yeah, Tomas, I'm going to suggest you reply to the thread on the news group, letting other people know, because had I not been in this meeting, I would have showed up tomorrow.
I am about to do that. The decision was made just a few minutes ago. That's why I wasn't here. I was busy talking with the leaders of the Riverside Club, trying to come to a consensus of when we would postpone it, if we would be postponing it.
Okay, cool. Thanks. And I'm glad I heard it here first.
Yes, yes.
Tentatively for the 25th now?
25th. Unless it starts raining again, hey, who knows? With thunder, they said possible thunderstorms tomorrow. So I'm saying, okay, this isn't going to work out for a pool party. And my wife keeps saying, no, 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 let's not do it tomorrow. So I got pushed from a lot of different people to postpone it.
Yeah.
Robot building day.
Yeah.
Inside the garage.
Well, now oh, instead of barbecue day?
The barbecue would be a robot building day, yeah. Oh, and
It
if
went
you're
up
coming,
48% chance.
Oh, wow.
And with a little lightning symbol in there.
yeah, lightning. That's all we need with a pool.
It's gone, this has been evolving over the past few hours, the prediction, because it was like only 20% chance of rain, very light rain. Now it's gone up, so anyway.
Yeah, I know. It keeps going up higher and higher. It's like, okay, guys, with the weather.
Like acceleration of, yeah, smart move.
All right, I think
Jim,
you have something to jump, but.
Jim, for the meeting, for the barbecue, I'd like you to bring both Orange and your virtual guy. What's his name?
Cooper.
Cooper. Yes, I'd love to have Cooper there on a big screen. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we can, that should be a lot easier in person.
Well, all right, if you want to do just one or the other, I'm fine with that too.
Well.
Why don't you just do Cooper? Make it easy. Then you don't have to. Otherwise, when you bring Orange, you got to babysit it to keep the kids away from it.
That's true, yeah.
But it's up to you. You can bring both or one. I'm good with either.
All right, well,
All right, Thomas, hopefully see you on the 25th.
25th. Woo!
Yeah.
All right. I think I had those
All
compensated.
right, Tim,
When you line this up.
Tim, you're up.
Was it gonna end the meeting? You gonna end the meeting?
Oh, we have another show.
Oh, we have a show and tell?
Yeah, I was gonna show something.
Please, go for it.
Yeah, I got my
Still
3D
spot-
printer.
guys are still spotlighting me. There we go.
Alright. Anyway, I got my 3D printer going. I've been working on printing up a little animatronic parrot here, so it's based on a actual parrot skull here, so I'm gonna animate the mouth and make it move, and then they got other body parts here to make the wings go and the head nod and turn and the head tilt and all that stuff. So I'm working on that, get that going here in the next couple months. So that's what I'm working on. Also been printing out these little micro switch holders, sort of cool. Also printing out a gun for a guy who wants to do Star Wars gun, so my main focus right now. Anyway, that's what I'm working on.
All right, Tim, I always look forward to your stuff.
All right, that's it.
Do you want to paint it eventually?
Huh?
Do you want to paint it?
I know, I have fur and feathers on it, it'll look like a bird.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's done. Cool. So that's what I'm working on, but right now I'm working on the gun, I gotta get that done, because I'm actually getting paid for that.
For the bird, did you download models or?
It was actually a thing on Thingiverse on how to do it, it's called Niles the Parrot.
Oh, okay. I think you mentioned that.
So I downloaded the files and started printing it. Got my new 3D printer up and running. So that's what I'm working on now, other than the gun. The gun's more important right now, so let's be working on printing out the rest of those parts.
Cool. Thank you, Tim.
All right, cool.
Thank you. That'll wrap up the meeting, monthly meeting of the Robotics Society of Southern California. See you guys next month.
All right, thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, bye.